I'm Cassiopeia Guthrie, and I'm an English and journalism teacher at a comprehensive high school in San Diego, California. When you meet someone named Cassiopeia, you know that there's definitely a story there. My story begins with parents who were concerned that we were destroying the earth and believed the future was in the stars. I was raised by a teacher and a solar engineer in a household with a food dehydrator and homeopathic remedies. I spent weekends splashing in the waves at Torrey Pines, summers bouldering at Mount Woodson, and grew up spelunking in California caverns. My childhood was John Denver, Carole King, and compassion. It was, honestly, a dream upbringing, and one rooted in connection to nature, seeking to exist without disrupting our world as best we could, and always learning. When I became a teacher, I did so with that multifaceted approach that I had learned from my family. Not content with being tied to any one subject, I pursued certifications in a variety of topics. That said, there was always a common denominator in my teaching approach: approaching curriculum in a conscientious way. There's a level of intentionality that's so critical to what we do. After teaching for a number of years, I had a second career as a project manager and content creator. And when I returned to the classroom, it was with this tremendous breadth of experience, but more importantly, with a renewed passion for helping my students to find their voices, to touch the world in a way that matters, and to connect with one another. And this activity has been a great way to do all of that, with the added bonus of creativity. For the Found in Rhetoric activity, which was used as the culminating project for a racial justice unit in a senior rhetoric class, my 12th graders were asked to evaluate expository text of their choice, using a wide variety of related articles from multiple scales and perspectives. This variety was key because it allowed for a more authentic experience for the students. They could learn, evaluate rhetoric on, and express their own opinions about a topic of their choice from global, regional, and local scales. Since rhetoric has the opportunity to shape policy, and this has been a focus of our unit readings and discussions, it was also important that these articles take into account a number of different perspectives, including political, historical, cultural, and ecological ones. After reading the article that they selected and noting key words that demonstrated suasive diction and rhetorical appeals, the students created unique found poems. Our focus on building our found poems was on the students' intended rhetoric, which could be the same or different from the original text. The process was intentionally applied to encourage students to not only observe the rhetoric of others and make sense of it, but also to communicate their own feelings and experiences through words. Once the poems were completed, students gathered and utilized found and upcycled paper products to create vibrant collages designed to match the rhetoric of their found poems. These reused materials were gathered via donation from our local Buy Nothing groups, from families, and from other teachers on campus. We built in a purposeful conversation about conservation and the importance of reducing, reusing, and recycling to encourage environmental responsibility in keeping with the attitude of an explorer. We emphasized that the goal was to empower audiences to action through a combination of rhetoric and creativity while still reducing overall environmental impact. Students sourced symbols and images that they felt best fit their found poems, organized and decorated their collages, and prepared the poems for presentation. Finally, our classes planned and executed poetry celebrations. At each of these celebrations, my students were assigned into 8 different groups, utilizing a color card system. In their groups, and with a feedback form based on our rubric, students took turns reading their poems while displaying their collages on the reverse sides. Each group selected a representative who then entered a bracket-style Poetry Off competition. The students loved hearing and giving feedback on each round of speakers and voting via secret ballot on their favorites. The top winners in the class earned special privileges and awards, but, most of all, the respect and admiration of their peers.
We can and must do better. Bring change.
I separated the word family if you couldn't tell what that word was, because I felt like if people continuously based off their race and are suspicious, it just breaks families apart. And then I put these then because I felt
In the days following this activity, the impact on my students was evident in their sense of responsibility, empowerment, and empathetic engagement and collaboration with one another about these topics. In a discussion board conversation, my student Jesus reflected, as a global citizen entering adulthood, I can make this world better by trying to influence people to stop racism around me. It might be a small percentage, but it's a start in the right direction. Sean mentioned he planned on joining some local cleanup programs to help with pollution, and Jasmine said, by encouraging others to volunteer, we can slowly make the world a better place. This lesson was also instrumental to me as a teacher. In observing my students' bravery, I've gained the courage to take risks with our next unit, a project in which students will design outcomes of their choice aimed at solving the problems they see in the world. I'm inspired by my students as they join this human experience with an understanding of how empathy and words can generate change for the better. Who could have guessed that, in Rhetoric, we could find hope for a better future for all of us?